Black Series Dengar is in the DorkLair. Welcome to another DorkLair action figure review. Today we're taking a look at the new Dengar figure from Star Wars, the Black Series. This figure now basically completes the Empire Strikes Back lineup of bounty hunters. And I currently have all of them except IG-88, who I'm on the hunt for with the Archive series. I'll hopefully find one of those very soon, maybe review it on the channel. And I also don't have Boba Fett, but I do have the Mafex Boba Fett, and I'm pretty glad to be one step closer to getting kind of that whole bounty hunter lineup together for the Empire Strikes Back. And overall, this is a great looking figure. I'm not a huge fan necessarily of the character of Dengar, or I guess like the look and style of him. He's kind of goofy with his crazy bun bonnet mummy wraps. But overall, I think they did a really good job of capturing what that character looks like. So let's start off with a look at the packaging. So this is pretty typical of your recent Black Series line since I think 2015 and the Force Awakens packaging. I think I've said it before, I'm not a huge fan of this packaging. I do love the Gregory Titus artwork though, and this fits right in line. So if you're kind of like a number chaser and you like to have them all lined up with the numbers, this matches up with those same packaging. And it's got a description on the back over here talking about how crude and slovenly Dengar is. But gotta love that Gregory Titus artwork. He's a great follow on Instagram, and Dengar written on the side there. So pretty straightforward, regular packaging for Dengar. And all right, let's get some of these other bounty hunters in next to good old Dengar here. So first up, Boba Fett. This is the Mafex Boba Fett. And we'll slide these guys over, and then we'll get Bosk in the mix and slide them back and over a little bit more. Let's see if we can get them all in the same shot here. And then we have Forlom. And finally, Zuckuss, who's a lot shorter than I sort of imagined. But when you look back at the movie, it's actually that he is pretty short. So that's how they compare. This Boba Fett might be a little bit tall in comparison. I mean, he's basically taller than Bosk. I don't know how accurate that is. But again, this is the Mafex. This is not the Black Series Boba Fett. So it might be slightly taller. I'm not totally sure. I think he fits in well with the rest of these guys. I'm just waiting on that IG-88, and hopefully he'll turn up in my target soon. And looking at the details on this guy, take a look at that face. I think it's really quite good. I think Hasbro's getting that face improvement down a lot better than they used to on those older figures. And it's working out really well, and Dengar looks nice. I mean, he doesn't look nice. He looks like Dengar. It's a good likeness. Taking a look at these head wraps, there's really a lot of good sculpt work going on here. There's even a couple, seems like separate components or pieces glued together to get a layered look to it. Like there's a piece right there glued on. And then you have like buttons securing it that are painted in a shiny metallic color. Looking at the chest here, the chest piece, there's some nice chipped paint showing metal, like bare metal underneath over here, down there. The sculpting is rather nice. There's even a little component right in there that's painted silver. Could have used maybe a little bit of detailed paintwork in here, but you're going to see that this figure has a lot going on for $20. So I can't really fault it for not having, say, like a little more wash on the like fabric parts of the figure, and maybe like a little bit of detailing in here. Moving down to the belt, it does do a decent job of looking like maybe sort of like a nylon material or something, the way it's painted in sort of this more synthetic looking gray. And then down to this pouch over here, sort of a leathery brown, and it's got some texture sculpted into it. And same thing with the holster, just a different kind of brown and a different kind of texture. This backpack is actually an accessory. It's a separate piece, so we'll talk about that after, but we'll take a look at the details on that. This is where I do think some more of those details came in. So you've got this bundled I don't know, is that Dengar's sleeping bag? Whatever that bundled towel or rag, or maybe it's extra rags to wrap himself in. That's painted nicely. It looks like it's bundled and cinched on there well. The sculpting is really good on it. You've got, again, this other sort of color looking almost nylon strap right here. You've got brown leather straps coming up and over a sort of maybe slightly weathered, almost metallic, blackish, brown, dark brown, almost blackish colored mechanical box type thing going on here. Kind of reminds me of a Ghostbusters backpack, really, if you think about it. But yeah, really nice details on that backpack. And then if you pull it off, so it tucks in here and tucks in here. As far as I know, I think that's how it goes, because there's a little peg there, and then you can see it matches up with a little slot there. And so this pegs into the back like this. And so when the backpack's off, he's got a little squarish hole in the back, a little more armor on the butt. And then coming down, you've got more of that same kind of layered look with the sculpted legs that are in that fabric, the mummy mummy wrappings. And then you have more weathered metal chipping going on in the armor and more nylon straps. And he's got basically slippers, moccasins, his kind of style. He's all wrapped up. So I think the details are really good on this guy. For a $20 figure, he looks really nice. And that face sculpt is really good. Like, if you go back and look at pictures of Dengar in the movie, and you look at the scars, and you can really see details in the eyes. It's really nice. Hasbro is doing some really good stuff with their face printing, photoreal technology right now. For accessories, he comes with a smaller blaster, and at first I thought this was like Han's blaster, like a DL-44, but I don't think it is. I think this is a little bit smaller of a pistol. I don't know. I'm not good with like the Star Wars specific blaster types and whatnot, but there's no paint on it, and mine is a little warped. I gotta take a little heat to it and try to get that to straighten out permanently. But that's what these weapons are like usually with Hasbro stuff. They're rubbery, flimsy kind of things. And there's no extra paint on it, but there's a little bit of detail in the sculpt there. It looks pretty good. Feels maybe like slightly petite or small, but I think that's how it is. I saw a picture of, I forget it was like a set photo or like a promotional photo or something, and he had a blaster like that. And then he also comes with this blaster that we've seen before. It's basically a large, I think it comes with a few of the stormtroopers. It's got a tripod piece, but it doesn't, not functioning. And again, this one's just cast in a brown color, so there's no other paint details on it that I can tell. Again, that same kind of flimsy material. Sometimes you'll pose him and you gotta make sure you got the arms in the right position so he's not like bending it and making it look all rubbery. And then finally, I already mentioned the backpack, but there it is again. Comes separate in the box, and then you attach it. So let me just attach it again just to show you what I was talking about. So that pegs in here, and then these kind of slide in. So this right here hooks around this edge like that. And then that gives you space to slide this in there. And that peg should line up with that slot. It's a little tricky, but once you get it lined up, it should slot in there. Hard to see on the camera, but I think it's in there. And then the same thing with this side. As for articulation, his head is very limited because of just the sculpting of the wraps. There's just no room for him to really look down much. Like, you can do this and this. And not a ton of room for side to side movement, a little bit. And then, but his head turns pretty well, and you can kind of angle it down or cock it back a little bit. So there's a little bit of motion in the head, but really kind of underwhelming articulation in the head and the neck, mostly because the limitations of the sculpt. Again, armor is going to be a problem with the articulation. The shoulder can go up this far. It can also swing all the way around. I took the backpack off for the articulation just so we can see just the full range. I do really like what they've done with the elbows here. It's a single joint, but it's almost like a deeper cut. So when you bring his elbow up, he can go rather far for a single jointed elbow. So that's pretty good right there. And then it also has a swivel at the elbow. There's no upper arm swivel or anything like that. And then his wrist, this is a wrist that can go this way, which is nice because it makes sense. His wrists make sense for holding a rifle. And then they can spin around as well. And then this wrist can go this way. So, you know, he can get into rifle poses pretty well. The torso can rotate freely very well. I do find the articulation on most of the joints to be much smoother than most Black Series figures, which is a nice change. And I find that the plastic is, I think, a little bit stiffer than usual. It's not as rubbery. So this feels a little more quality plastic per se. And there's just like a lot of movement in his torso. Even with that armor there's a decent amount. He can't, obviously, he's not going to crunch forward very far because of the armor, but he can go back. Without his backpack on, he can go this far back, which is pretty good. And he can rock side to side. And so the upper torso articulation is good. There's really none in the lower. It's just all one piece down there. So you're not going to get any more crunch out of him. But you wouldn't really expect to a guy this armored. These are really soft, and they can get out of the way nicely. And his legs can kick out this far. And he's got a ton of ankle articulation. So, you know, he can get a really wide stance. Not that you would want Dengar doing the splits. His leg can kick forward pretty far, pretty much 90 degrees or close to it. So you could probably get him into a sitting position if you want him sitting down, maybe piloting a ship or something. You can get him sitting that much. His leg can kick back, but it's just very, very limited by the armor on the back, on the lower butt part there. There is a thigh swivel at the top, and he's got double jointed knees. These joints ratchet much more, but double jointed knees that way. And then the ankles can rock pretty much as far as you would ever need them to go. And then they angle this far. I think that's it. Oh, yep, I got him one more. So you can do tippy toes if you want to get him doing some ballet. So overall, pretty happy with the articulation. The head is just probably the weakest part for articulation. I do love the elbows and you know, all the nice range of motion in the legs. So you can get some action poses, get him firing off that rifle, doing some pretty cool, fun things. Even though he doesn't do anything in the movies, but you know, you imagine this guy is a pretty badass bounty hunter and takes people out. So he's probably going to be kicking some butt and getting into some action poses. That'll pretty much do it for the review. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please check out some of my other ones, including the very recent Mezco 112 Collective Dark Side. And be sure to check the links in the description below for our social media and our podcast, the DorkLair Collecting Podcast. And until next time, may the Force be with you. DorkLair!